Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rochelle. I read a lot of books and I also have a disability, and honestly it feels like it's been a hot minute since I've sat in front of the camera. I think I got so used to it for 13 days of Bookmas, and then the little time that I've taken off from it has been nice, don't get me wrong, but also it's been very weird. I feel disconnected. I feel like I haven't been talking to you guys in a while, and I don't think I like it. So what we're going to be doing today is actually doing a book unhaul. You know me, and you know the fact that I rarely do book unhauls. It's something that isn't something that I practice a lot of. However, I think I have finally kind of gotten a better idea of my taste in books, what I enjoy reading, what I really don't like picking up. And so that's kind of helped me because, as you might have seen in my last video that I will link here, I actually did go and scan all of my books that I own. I went and reorganized a lot of things, and in that video I mentioned that there's books that I'm unhauling that I didn't want to go and scan and add to my book count. So I have 20 books in front of me right now, and hopefully I do have the number right. We know I'm awful with numbers, but I believe they're 20 books, and these are the 20 books that weren't included in my total book count that you would have seen in that video. So in this video, we'll be going through all the 20 books that I don't really want to hang on to anymore, and my reasonings for that, if I do have a reason. I just feel like this will be great to kind of do this unhaul before the new year, before any new books potentially get added to my library, either through Christmas or through my birthday. So this is kind of making room for any new books that actually fit my reading tastes and curating my library to fit me a lot better, because I do have plans for my TBR game in the future, and I really do want to have books that I'm excited to read in those options. So the first stack that I have here is actually, I think, all of the Bridgerton books, give or take. I remember I did actually go and pick these up, I believe before Charles and I actually moved in together, and I did like Bridgerton, although I've truthfully only watched the first season. I kind of go through ebbs and flows where I do like watching romance stuff and I'm not really interested in watching romance stuff. But I did pick up these books thinking that I would want to go and read them. However, I've heard that there's some frustrating pieces in these books because it is, of course, like a different period of time when there's dating, and there's going to be a lot of expectations in the way that women should go and act. And I've heard that the changes that they've made to the show are a lot better and thankfully not taken away from the books here. So I was thinking about this, and I want to say that when I was watching my friend Becca from Gemini Pages, hearing her go and talk about the Bridgerton books and everything, it kind of solidified the reasoning that I was like, you know what, I don't think I want to hang on to these books. I'm just going to go and borrow them from my library and listen to them through audiobooks. And because of that reasoning, it really doesn't make sense for me to hang on to these books if I don't really have a desire to read them physically. So I'm going to be unhauling all of these. I'm going to be bringing them to my local used bookstore, and maybe someone else can go and enjoy these books because they really haven't been touched at all. I think the first book was the only one that I might have read a couple of pages, and unfortunately it does have the cover for the book from the TV show, which is something I'm also not really wild about. Then I have some books that I just don't really want to go and hang on to, and a lot of them were in my Love It or Lose It series. So the first one I have here is Desperate Characters by Paula Fox. I did go and read this one during the Dungeons and Book Dragons readathon. It was one that I had on my Love It or Lose It shelf, and honestly the only reason I picked up this book was because I saw it mentioned on the TV show You, and I was influenced to go and pick up this book and actually read it because I was curious what they were talking about. I just felt like I was left out of the loop, and honestly I should have just continued being left out of the loop. I was so bored during this book. I thought about going and DNFing it so many times, but it was a thin book, and finishing it would have still given my Team Druids in that readathon some points, so I stuck through it. I think I rated it 1 star. I didn't really care for it, so I'm excited to get this off of my bookshelves. Another one we're going to be removing is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I believe I had this one mentioned in my Love It or Lose It video, which is something I do plan on bringing back in the new year. I just had to do a little bit of revamping for it. But with this one, It was a very viral book years ago, and I never got the chance to go and read it, but then I saw that they had a TV show for it, so I was like, you know what? We're gonna go and read this finally, know what people are talking about. I still haven't actually watched the show, but the thing is, with this book, it just felt like I was listening to a bunch of spoiled white rich kids, and that's something I'm not really too wild about at all. I ended up going and listening to this through an audiobook, and I'm glad I did it that way because I don't know how easy it would have been for me to actually read this physically, but I'm excited to also get this off of my bookshelves. I think there's another book, but I don't really have the desire to continue reading and knowing what happens here. Next, we have A Stranger in the House by Shari Lapina. This was another one off of my Love It or Lose It shelf, and the thing is with Shari Lapina is a good author. I will give them that. But for whatever reason, every single one of their books just gets wiped from my memory after I finish reading it. And I can never recall if it was a book that I enjoyed, what exactly happened. I think for this one, there was something to do with a wife that lost her memory and was accused of murder, something along those lines. And Shari Lapina always does have a really great twist with their books, and there's a lot of different characters involved and we get different perspectives, but for whatever reason, I just can never recall or remember the books. It's like when I read the back of the book, maybe I remember what I read, and then other times it just feels like, oh, wait, did I actually read this book? So I'm gonna unhaul this one. It's nothing against Shari Lapina, it's just for whatever reason, my memory just can never withhold the books that they write, and I don't know. I remember all the other books that I read, but for some reason I never remember theirs. Then we have Stranger Danger by Maren Stoffels. This one was a very thin, very quick read. I want to say that this was young adult, and with this book I believe it involved a few kids that ended up going away for the weekend so that they could lock down and study for their exams, and they had one rule where they couldn't go and bring any technology with them. They couldn't have their phone so they could contact anyone, and when they're there, there's some weird things that are going on, like there's an additional person living with them, and then it kind of seems like they're getting picked off and someone's messing with them. And the concept of this book was really, really great. But when things got revealed, that's when it started going downhill for me, and I started getting a really icky taste in my mouth. So this is a book that I just don't really have any desire to hang on to. I am curious about reading the other books by this author because they do seem to have a really good concept and have a way of writing that really keeps me interested. Unfortunately, it was just this particular book. I didn't really like the twist that happened, and I don't really want to dive into it too much because it would be a huge spoiler. Then I have Chaos and Flame by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. I have read a book series by Justina Ireland before. It's that one series called Dread Nation that has zombies, but it's in a more historical piece, and I absolutely loved that series, although the second book I wasn't too wild about. The first book I loved more than anything, so I kind of view it as a standalone in my mind, but because of that I was like, oh, I'm gonna try reading this book. I honestly don't really remember too much about this one either. I think I ended up going and switching to an audiobook that I borrowed through my library, and it honestly didn't get interesting until the end for me. And I don't really remember too much of what happened in this book. I know it involved like some different families, like Family Dragon and maybe Family Phoenix, something like that. Or no, House Dragon and House Kraken. So that kind of seemed interesting, kind of Game of Thrones-esque in my mind, but I just wasn't really too wild about this, and I don't know if it's because it was a book that was written by two authors. The Guest House by Robin Morgan Bentley. Now, if you've watched my videos, you know that this is a book that I actually rated 5 stars, and you're probably wondering, Rochelle, why are you unhauling this book? Well, this book was actually a book that belonged to a library, and I didn't realize it when I purchased it, and I have a little bit of a germaphobe thing when it comes to books from libraries, because unfortunately sometimes the books are in great condition, people take really good care of them, and then other times there might be gross bodily things in the book that they're boogers. They're boogers. There might be boogers in the book. And so with this one, I loved this book so much, but unfortunately, that was something I experienced with this. So I am unhauling it, and I'm probably going to see if I can maybe get a different copy of this book because it was one that I really, really loved. This involved a couple that finally got pregnant after years of not being successful, and they decide to go on a trip to this one location in an area where they first met so that they can kind of relive some of these days before they had a child and before the child is in the picture. Unfortunately, the house that they end up going and staying at is also occupied by a couple. They kind of have this Airbnb thing where they live there. It's a bed and breakfast type of place. But they seem to have their eyes locked onto this unborn child, and it doesn't seem like they're gonna let the couple leave. This book was really good. It had a few different points of views, and honestly, I was really wrapped into the story. I thought it was really great. There was a little bit of disability representation in it as well, and disability representation is something that is extremely important to me. So I love whenever I come across it in a book, and I believe that the disability representation was also something that the author themselves experienced. So it was really well done in that aspect as well. But yeah, I loved this book. I just unfortunately don't want to keep the edition that I have because it's a little bit gross. So that is the only reason why I'm unhauling it from my library, but I do plan on getting a new copy so I can add it right back. All right, then we're gonna go into a few other books. This one that I have here is Dealing with Dragons by Patricia C. Reed. This one you will have probably remembered seeing in the books that formed who I am today. I don't think I'm getting that title right, but same concept. The reason I'm unhauling this one is because I do own the entire series in my library, and when I picked up this one, it was just because I saw a different cover. I was kind of thinking that maybe I wanted to collect different versions of that series because it was one that I held really close to my heart. But the more I thought about it, I was like, this cover's neat, but it really has no significant value for me. So that is why I kind of want to go and unhaul it. I don't really want to have a million copies of this series. Yes, I do have a million copies of a different book, like Out on a Limb, but I don't think that's really something that I really want to do with a lot of books moving forward. So that's why I'm kind of cutting things down a little bit and also make my library count make more sense as well. Then another book that I'm going to be unhauling is Venetia by Georgette Heyer. This one was actually a book that I was influenced to buy from another booktuber. Their name is Darling Desi. She was talking about how much she loved this book, and it seemed like it might have had some autism rep just with a little brother. And so that was why I ended up going and snagging up this book. I was really curious and intrigued, but this book has been sitting on my bookshelves, and honestly, I've just kind of realized that this isn't really something that I'm in the mood to read a lot of the time. So I think with this book, I'm gonna unhaul it, and if I do eventually want to read it, I'm just gonna go and borrow a book from my library, probably in an audiobook form, because that's the way I'm most comfortable when it comes to borrowing books from libraries because of what I explained earlier. Then the next few books that I'm gonna be unhauling are books that I've either read or I have additional copies of. But I'm going to put a disclaimer here. If you are someone that is my friend and is watching this video, like a friend that lives in my state, please stop watching because I'm going to actually be gifting some of these books to y'all because I have extra copies and these are books that I really love, and I'd like to go and gift my love of these books to you. So please stop watching. All right, end of disclaimer. So the first book I'm gonna talk about here is Hidden Pictures by Jason Recklick. This is a book that I totally messed up on and didn't realize that I had an additional copy of it on my shelves. And it wasn't until I was going and scanning things that I was like, wait, I think I've scanned this book before. I'm pretty sure I've seen this book before. So I'm actually going to be unhauling this book and gifting it to one of my friends. I absolutely loved this book. This one was so fun. It also had these really fun pictures inside of it that really carried along the story for me because I was always curious, like, what exactly is going on here? Like, what do these pictures mean? We follow a nanny who is starting to work for this family, after she kind of had a few issues with drugs and things like that. She's trying to get back on her feet, and because of her sponsor, she was able to go and find this job with a family. Now, the dad in this couple, he's a little bit hesitant to let this girl on just because of her prior history, but the wife is like, no, no, no. I trust this friend of ours. I think that she's going to do a great job. And the girl's trying to do the best she can. However, she's starting to notice a few weird things with a little boy, one of which is that he has some very interesting drawings. And over time, the drawings seem to get creepier and creepier, and she's not quite sure why, but she wants to do her best to find out what the cause is, what's going on, because she's in love with this child and wants to do the best that she can to be the best nanny for this kiddo. And I'm gonna leave it there, but I thought this book was so great. I want to say I either rated it 5 stars or maybe 4.5 stars. So this was one that I absolutely enjoyed, and I just want to get more of my friends that live in the state near me to actually read this book so I can talk to them about it. The same thing goes for this book, which is For Whom the Belle Tolls by J.C. Lynn. This was one of my favorite books that I read this year. I actually got an audio arc for this one, and I devoured it so quickly, and then I had to go and pick up a physical copy for it. But then I realized not long after that they were releasing a really gorgeous special edition of the book, and I'll include an image of it here. I loved the special edition and the sprayed edges for it. I thought some of the representation with those colors fit perfectly for one of the characters, and so I had to go and snatch that one up. And although I love this book so much, I don't really have the desire to keep a regular edition of it, especially since it is quite a chunky book. So I'm going to be unhauling this one and sending it over to one of my good friends who is actually going to be a bridesmaid for me, and hopefully she's not watching this video. If she is, you're getting this and I hope you love it. But that is why I'm unhauling this. It's because I have my own edition of it that I love so much, and I just want to share my love of this book with a close friend. Another book that I'm going to be unhauling is The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. I do really love this book, but I do have this other edition here that I'll show, and I just love that edition a little bit more. I love more of the creepiness associated with that book, and although this one is really pretty and has these gorgeous metallic rose gold sprayed edges, I just don't think I really want to hang on to this edition of the book. So I'm going to be unhauling this one, and I'm trying to decide if I want to go and re-gift it or if I'm going to bring it to the used bookstore, but either way it's going to be unhauled from my bookshelves as well. Then 2 other books I have here. I can't remember if it's going to be a duology or it's a trilogy, but I have So Let Them Burn and This Ends an Ember by Camilla Cole. So with these books, I actually do have 2 editions of it that I will be keeping. I didn't realize that when I purchased these books that they had different covers, especially the So Let Them Burn. It has this other cover that I, for whatever reason, thought was a completely different book, a different series. And so because of that, I just kind of decided that I want to keep those other editions instead of these ones. So that's why I'm unhauling them. It's nothing against these books. I still have yet to read them, but I don't want to have 2 editions of each book because I'd like to only do that if their books really have a significant value to me, or there's some other sentimental reason that I'm keeping them. And unfortunately that doesn't include these books, so they'll be going to a different home, but I hope whoever gets them will love them. I can't wait to go and read my own copies of these books. Then the last book I have here is actually a Critical Role book, and don't come at me, I have my reasons. So this one is The Tales of Exandria, the Bright Queen. So with this book, I had been getting a lot of the editions from Book Outlet because a lot of them were popping up on the site, but there were a few times that I had ordered the books and then got an email saying, oh, we're so sorry, we ran out of copies of this book, we weren't able to go and add it to your order, something along those lines. And for whatever reason, I thought this was one of those books that this had happened to. But when this book arrived and I was looking through Charles's bookshelf, I realized that they actually did have this edition, and it wasn't one of those books that had happened to. So because of that reason, I will be unhauling this book and bringing it to a different home. I kind of went back and forth on whether or not I did want to have this on my shelves, But since Charles and I do kind of go and share a lot of our books together, I don't have his book count combined with my book count though. But because of that reason, I'm going to unhaul this book. I think the only Critical Role books that we do have that are the same would be, of course, Jester's book, because I absolutely love Jester and I wanted to have my own edition of her book. And then a few of the different Critical Role volume books with some of the artwork and other story pieces with their campaigns. And that's about it. I don't think I really want to have my own editions of these books, but who knows, that could change down the road, but I don't think so. So that is why I'm unhauling this one as well. Those were all the 20 books that I'm planning on unhauling from my library. It does feel really nice to kind of declutter a lot of things and just know that a lot of my bookshelves do have books that I do intentionally want to keep and want to read. I do still have my Love It or Lose It shelf that does have some of the books that I've mentioned in the past where I'm like, I don't know if I want to unhaul them and I feel like I want to read them first. I did keep a lot of those, and so even though we have 20 books here in front of me, there's still a bunch of other books that, who knows, maybe I could change my mind and I decide I don't want to do a Love It or Lose It video with those ones and I do want to unhaul. But if that happens, you'll go and see that in the future. But I think this was a great way to go and finish up our bookshelf organization with just showing the books that I'm ready to rehome to other people that could enjoy these stories more than I will, or with the ones that I'm regifting might love these stories as much as I do. But I hope you enjoyed this. I always feel a little bit weird with unhaul videos because I feel like I'm being mean with my opinions about some of the books that I wasn't too wild about. So hopefully that wasn't the case and I didn't upset anyone that I was getting rid of a book that you love. Reading is subjective and some books might be loved by people, some books might not be loved by people. That's kind of the beauty of the reading world. But if you made it to this point of the video and you don't know what to comment, maybe go and leave a broom or something that kind of signifies cleaning and clearing things out before the new year. And since this is going to be the last video before Christmas, I just want to say that I hope you all have a happy holiday, whether or not you do celebrate or not, and I can't wait to go and share my next video after the holidays are over. But until then, I always wrap up my videos with a reminder to never forget that you're worthy and capable of amazing things. Bye, friends. In one of my past book Thanks, Finn. Thanks, Bubba.